right, what is up, YouTube? This is the GoCast. Well, not the GoCast podcast. This is GoCast Hoops. I'm co-host of the GoCast podcast, and today you're seeing my mug because YouTube is doing this weird thing that it does every couple months, where it's not really pushing my content. I have done a video where I'm kind of telling why I'm intrigued by this matchup, this NBA Finals, but I said no, I'm not going to post it because YouTube is just not going to push it. So hopefully, if you guys are watching this and you check this out, please check out my other videos that are up there right now. I have one about the best duo or best backcourt with Luka and Kyrie, how they match up against such duos as Steph and Clay and Manu and Tony Parker. So check that out. It's in the it's on my channel. Also, I have a new one where I'm looking at 3 targets that Denver Nuggets should look at as they, navigate through this offseason to maybe get back to that championship echelon that they were once at. And I have a video, Michael Jordan being overrated. Check it out to see what the topic truly is and just kind of take a look at some of the thoughts I had, kind of critiquing someone else's thoughts on the GOAT. So we are here for the 2024 NBA Finals. They're finally upon us. I don't think the long layoff has helped the momentum of what has been a pretty solid postseason so far, playoffs. Boston's kind of had a not the most mind-blowing series so far, or round so far, and Dallas has done fairly well. So we're going to go through and just kind of talk about some of the keys to this matchup and why this is so intriguing. I will get into that because this one feels different. Most NBA finals you kind of sway one way or the other. This is for the most part, is one of those that are really tough to really break down because they are very different teams in certain ways. If you look at each player, each position, they match up actually pretty well, which is hard these days because while there's parity, a lot of times the team may be loaded in one area, their front court. They might have a big man or two that are just, head and shoulders above what the other team brings in. Or your backcourt is just that great. The Mavs have a great backcourt, but just look at the wings of the Boston Celtics, and you're like, they kind of negate each other. So it's going to come down to some key pieces and some key chess moves that we'll get into later. And if you guys want to, please stay to the end while I give my prediction on the 2024 NBA Finals, the Boston Celtics versus the Dallas Mavericks. But first, if you guys are feeling just generous, the super chat is open. So if you want to donate, please do. It just helps the channel. I'm trying to get a new microphone. So anything you guys provide will go back into the channel to provide as greater content as I can. I will hopefully get back on track with my videos. If YouTube ever comes or gets me out of this slump of basically not recommending anything to anybody, I'll get back on my normal schedule. But for right now, I'm gonna probably, if I do anything, I'll probably live stream. So you'll have to get used to seeing this face a little more. I try to do the weekend live streams, but sometimes there's a lot of things going on, so I can't always get to those. But if I have a topic that I want to speak on, I'll probably do it here instead of doing a video because where we're at right now. But coming up, we do have the NBA Finals starting tomorrow. I wanted to get something out beforehand just to, give my thoughts on this series and how I think it'll go before it materializes. I don't want to jump the gun. I don't want to wait till after game one and then be like, yeah, Boston blew them out. So, this, that, and the other, or yeah, Dallas, Luka scored 50. So, this is what's going to happen. I want to do it before so you can see in real time if my predictions are correct. I already did that on the GOATcast podcast. channel, which you can also check out. It's linked in the bio here, but just at GoatCast Podcast, check us out. We do WNBA, NBA, lots of stuff, so check us out. So yeah, tomorrow is the big day. It's been quite the gap between games, and it's hurt it a little bit because we want that momentum, and Dallas getting that big huge win over the Timberwolves, and Boston kind of getting the Pacers off the court as quickly as possible. You want to get back into that. You want to see what they can do against each other, but we have to wait because I guess they already have it set in stone what they'll start on, and of course they have to do this because you don't know when each series is going to end. They can go 7, as we saw. They can go 4 and 5, so they can be really long or they can be really short. So they have to give themselves that kind of time to get everything prepared. Of course, you have to have the venue ready, and if you don't know how long or short the series is going to be, you can't have the venue already set, because that stops some other categories and other people using that venue. So we will start tomorrow, Thursday, June 6th, and I think we're going to be in for a treat. So moving right along, let's just talk about how each team got here to the finals. Of course, Boston is your representative in the Eastern Conference. Their way to the finals was, I have a video, check that out. I said it was paved in gold, and I still believe that. They started out against number 8 Miami Heat, minus Jimmy Butler. We knew that was not going to be much of a series as long as Boston played like they know how to play. As long as they didn't, completely just have their heads already fast forwarded to the next round. As long as they played their game and played who was in front of them, they would get that win. And they did. They let one slip away at home, surprisingly, with Miami just shooting lights out. They were snipers that game. So you had an anomaly game where they did lose, but other than that, they stayed the course, beat them. Next round with the Cleveland Cavaliers, same kind of issue. They took their foot off the gas in the second game. Donovan Mitchell, all-star, great player. He capitalized on that. So they lost another one at home, surprisingly, and that could play a big part in how this finals goes. But lost another home game, came back, got the job done. Of course, Donovan Mitchell went down. Jared Allen wasn't a factor because he was out. But during that time, I think right before that, Porzingis went out with a calf injury, so he's been out. But he's better now. He's likely going to play in the first game of the finals, so he's back. So once again, dealing with injuries, Cleveland gets beat, gentleman sweep, and then of course the Indiana Pacers, who got their way in due to injuries themselves to the New York Knicks, they bullied their way in and just were no match for Boston. They made Boston play hard, which you kind of knew because Indiana's just that type of team. They're a fast team. They're a run and gun type of team. They're not the greatest defensive team, but they can make you pay if you're not. If you're trying to outrun them and outgun them, they will make you pay. And we almost saw Boston do that, but every game it came down to the end, and the more poised Boston Celtics were able to capitalize and were able to carry out their game plan most games and get the job done. Came down to defense. It came down to executing late in the game, and they were able to execute a lot better, of course, than what the Indiana Pacers were. So, and once again, injuries reared their ugly heads, and Tyrese Halliburton, the head of the snake for the Indiana Pacers, goes down with an injury. I believe it was a hamstring, something of that nature. missed the last 2 games. It was pretty much over after that. So yeah, so Boston got in. They beat the number 8 team. They beat the number, I believe it was number 4 team in Cleveland, and they beat the number 6 team in Indiana. So hold that thought. So how the West was won. Coming in, Dallas was not my pick at all. I was very high on, of course, the Denver Nuggets. I thought it was just a foregone conclusion that they would get back. I thought they would have a little more trouble than they did last year, but I thought they were a shoe-in. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Also, I was high on the Clippers, and them getting back to and them actually getting to the finals. I thought this was the year Kawhi was mostly healthy, but of course his health deteriorated towards the end of the season. Paul George was there, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. I felt like that collective group had enough experience to where them together would be a huge factor and would play a big part in them being able to go far in the Western Conference. And then, of course, there was the Minnesota Timberwolves, one of the better teams, one of the surprise teams of the 2024 season. They had the best defense. They had a superstar in the rising Anthony Edwards, who was just lights out. And the way they handled the Phoenix Suns, it just looked like that team was poised to be a huge threat. And I even did a video. I hate to keep plugging, but I did a video where I felt like the Denver versus Minnesota matchup was the NBA Finals. I felt like whoever came out of that would be the NBA champions. I was wrong. So, but going back to Dallas was able to, in that first round, was able to beat the number 4 Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers smacked them in the first game of the series. I kind of thought, okay, yeah, they figured it out. Ty Lue's got a good game plan. They may not even need Kawhi. They might let Kawhi rest this one out, But then as it went on, Luka, Kyrie, the new guys, Gafford, Lively, they figured them out, outplayed them, got them out of there. Then the next round, they faced the number 1 OKC Thunder. I wasn't high on the Thunder in the playoffs because they are very young and their youth showed big time when they played Dallas. So, it kind of went like I expected. I felt, Mavs and 6, and, that was close enough. But I just didn't think they had enough, and I thought they were just too inexperienced to go in there and get, big wins against Luka and Kyrie and these guys that have been out there and know what they're doing. Excuse me. So they get by the number 1 OKC Thunder. Then they play the number 3 Minnesota Timberwolves. So they played number 4 seed, the number 1 seed, and the number 3 seed. And I thought Minnesota was just going to come out there and bully them because of the way they played Denver. No. Dallas matched everything they had, and they showed that the number 1 defense in the league wasn't enough to take on Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Some people say that Anthony Edwards, talking about him having to guard Kyrie kind of woke that beast up, but that's up for interpretation. But I think the beast has already been awakened because they know it's now or never. If they slip up one game or a couple games, they're going home and they might not get to this place again, So there's a lot that can happen between season to season. So you don't want to stop, lose this momentum and go home. You want to keep that momentum going. So that's definitely did that. Luka was phenomenal. Kyrie was phenomenal. Surprisingly, they got the Minnesota Timberwolves out of there in 5 games, gave them a gentleman's sweep. I thought they would sweep them after the first 3 games because it just seemed like down the stretch, the Mavs were just way too good in that backcourt for them to do anything to them or to match anything they had going on. So in the end, we saw basically what we saw, and that was Dallas take out the Boston Celtics and not, excuse me, Dallas take out the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards didn't look good in that series. Cat was reverted to the cat that I always knew would show. I can never trust a Minnesota team. Not with Cat as your two guy. I guess you want to call him the two guy. If you want to put Anthony Edwards first, but if Anthony Edwards was the first option, he didn't look like it, and he was very inefficient in his Western Conference Finals. So pump the brakes on that Michael Jordan comparison. I know I did a video on that, but yeah, way too early, and that was not flashes of MJ. Trust me. So, as we said, at West, the Dallas Mavericks take out the Clippers first round. They take out the OKC Thunder second round. And in the final round, conference finals, they take out the Minnesota Timberwolves. So now let's talk about the key players for the Boston Celtics. Of course, their starting five are, going to be key. But of course, the key is going to be their two all-star players, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Both guys have been there before. 2022, they were young pups, it seems. They were not ready for that spotlight. And I think that getting back there, they got back to the conference finals last year, could not be, they were down 0-3. They almost made that, won that series by coming back from a 0-3 deficit. Couldn't quite get it done. But I think they had they just wanted it. And you could tell by how they came out this season, guns blazing. They wanted to dominate, and they wanted to show we are that team. We are the future, and this is our time. So, of course, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are going to be key players in this game. Now, both are averaging pretty good averages so far. Tatum, 26.8 points per game, 10.4 rebounds. People have kind of been down on him this postseason. I don't know why. He's doing what he needs to do. I mean, they're winning. I mean, how much do you want him to, I don't know, average 40 against teams that they're beating decisively? I mean, I don't get the Jason Tatum kind of, being down on him. And he's shot what, 29% from three. Okay, that's not a good number. So maybe he needs to dial it back from three, obviously. But he was in the MVP conversation this season. He's gotten to the NBA Finals. We've got to pump the brakes some. If they're winning, I could see if they were losing or it was just last second buckets every single game for them to get the win. And it wasn't Tatum that was getting them. It was somebody else. Okay. Then we might be a little down on Tatum, but it's been a lot of Tatum, doing what he needs to do. He's averaging a double-double. I mean, what else do you want from the guy? I mean, 27 points a game so far in these playoffs, 10 rebounds, and I got 6 assists. That's almost a triple-double, basically. So, I mean, I don't get why we're giving him so much flack. Now, his partner, Jaylen Brown's averaging 25, 4.6 assists, 37% from the three. Pretty good, pretty solid numbers. He was the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. I think rightfully so. He played well against the Pacers. He plays well with Tatum, but he's a guy that can take over when needed. If we're looking back at the 2022 series, that NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors, he was a no-show for some of that. He was abysmal. He should he have been on the court? I don't know, but and he's probably got a little chip on his shoulder for that. He wants to make amends for that, so he's been playing pretty hard. So, with that said, those two are going to be huge key players in this NBA Finals. They just got to show up. If they give you these numbers, I think you're okay. You are playing one of the best backcourts in the current NBA, maybe in NBA all time. I don't know. It depends on what you think. But you've got to give them at least 50 points together. As long as you give them 50, the Boston Celtics have a nucleus and have players that can get you buckets enough to where, as long as they give you that, they can fill out the other portion of the points and get the job done. I mean, Dallas they've turned around their defense some, but they're not a defensive juggernaut by no means. So it's not like they're going to just stifle and stop the Boston Celtics. So, of course, those two are just going to have to produce around their normal level, and I think those key pieces will do what they need to do. Then you have Drew Holiday, who is going to be. I'm going to talk about this when I talk about X factors. He's going to be paramount because I feel like he's going to be paired up with Luka and/or Kyrie and other players. You might see him on some of the bigger guys, but he's going to be paramount because he has that championship pedigree. He knows how to get it done. He knows what to do to get it done, and he has the know-how. He's a veteran. He knows what needs to be done to get the job done. So with him having that, it's going to be a key for the Boston Celtics because anytime they kind of get razzled and frazzled, even with their coach, having a young coach like Joe Mazzulla, he might get a little frustrated, but having a guy like Drew Holiday out there, he's going to be able to calm down the troops. He's going to be able to get them back on par and just get their heads back into the game. And I think that's going to be paramount against a Dallas Mavericks team that will probably go on runs and big runs that might frustrate them. But as long as they stay the course, and stay level-headed, I think they'll be okay. And I think Drew Holiday will be a big factor. Other key players, of course, Kristaps Porzingis. How is he going to come back? Will he come back healthy enough to be effective? We'll have to see. I want to see game one just to see how he plays. If there's any rust, he's been gone for a little while. I don't think it'll be too much of a rust thing, but I just think, he'll have to work his way back into some of the play. Al Horford's been playing okay. Do you play him against? I mean, I think the veteran will do well playing against some of those young guys because he can kind of, use some of his veteran smarts, his basketball IQ to kind of get those guys into situations where they're not going to be comfortable, which is what you got to do at a high level. And then he's going to make them have to come out and guard him. That's the thing about Boston. Both of their bigs can shoot. So Gafford and Lively and those guys, they can't just roam the paint. They just can't help defense the entire game. They're going to have to be able to guard that perimeter. And how Horford and Porzingis can make you pay. I think I wrote down Porzingis is shooting 40% from three. That's a small sample size now because he only played, I believe, 4 games in that first round against Miami. But that's still a good clip that he's shooting at. So you got to play him honest. You can't just let him stay out there on the island and shoot because he will make you pay. Plus he's a big guy, so he's going to make those bigs, Gafford, Lively, whoever you play down there, PJ Washington. He's going to make them work. So they're going to have a tough time keeping him off that glass or keeping them from getting to the dunker spot and things of that nature. So, I think Porzingis is going to be a big factor if he can come back and be healthy. And Horford, with his veteranship, he's going to be big because he knows where to go. He's not going to try to do too much. He's not going to try to, be this hero. He's going to do what his role is defined, and he'll probably do it well. So, I think all those guys are key players, of course, Derek White. Derek White's another guy. They got to play him honest. They can't just kind of, slack off of him because he can give it to you. Just like a Jaden McDaniels in doses, Derek White is probably much, much more efficient than a Jaden McDaniels. So you can't just hope and pray that he will miss. You're going to have to make him miss. He can go scoreless for 3 quarters and then light you up in the 4th. So he's a guy that you got to be aware of where he's at on the court and play him honest as well. So that's a lot of players. And of course, you got their bench: Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Luke Cornett. We'll see how they, who they bring off the bench, if it's going to be Horford or Porzingis starting out. But I think Boston has a lot of heavyweights. You got to be prepared for it. And then, of course, we switch over to Dallas. The Mavericks, of course, have that two-headed snake of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving trying to redeem himself after a rocky time in Boston. And, of course, his Brooklyn failure, if you want to call it that. So now he's trying to show the world and show us all that he is back, and he's Kyrie, the Kyrie we know. He's trying to dial it back to 2016, 2017 Kyrie, who can just light you up. And Luka was 3rd in MVP voting. Is this his revenge tour? I mean, it's kind of looking like it, because he's looking unstoppable. This postseason so far, he's averaged 28.8 points per game. He's averaged 9.6 rebounds, 8.8 assists. 34% from 3, which isn't great, but he's able to hit them when they matter. And just ask Minnesota, ask OKC, ask the Thunder. Of course, Kyrie, he's averaging 22.8 points per game, 5.2 assists. He's shooting 40% from 3. So he's a guy that Boston Celtics are going to have to play honest. They got to keep somebody on him, and they got to know where he's at on the court at all times, because he can light you up. Then you have PJ Washington, who has come in. He's been a bright spot for that Dallas Mavericks team, who traded for him at trade deadline. He's given them 14 points, 36% from 3. He's another guy that can hurt you late. He can be mediocre for the first 3, and in that 4th quarter, you leave him open, you give him any space, he's going to make you pay. We saw that he was probably one of their more efficient players against the OKC Thunder, where I felt, Luka kind of struggled a little bit, and Kyrie was kind of just waiting in limbo a little bit. But I thought that PJ Washington really stepped up in that series, and he's been pretty much a factor in all of them. So he's another guy that they're going to have to pay attention to all game, because PJ Washington is just that good. Also, you have their 2 bigs, Derek Lively, and Daniel Gafford, Daniel Gafford has made a huge difference for that team. And of course, Derek Lively, the second, they drafted him last year. Probably didn't think he was going to turn into nothing. They probably thought he was going to need some time to kind of find himself. No, he's right there in the middle of the in the play. He's one of their factors. So Boston's going to have to key in on those 2, because those are energy guys. Those are guys that are they're not going to hurt you from the 3-point line. They're not going to hurt you from the mid range. But Boston and most teams are going to spend so much time and effort trying to keep Luka out and trying to keep Kyrie out, that sometimes you're going to forget about those 2 guys in the front court, and you leave those 2 with everybody's so focused on Luka and those guys, and Washington in the corner, and Derrick Jones Jr., who we'll talk about in a second. You leave those guys alone, or you focus so much on those guys, the other 2 will make you pay. Gafford's getting so many dunks, it's just crazy. He's averaging, I don't know, like 5, 6, 7 dunks in this postseason. So he's a guy that the Boston Celtics are going to definitely have to pay attention to. Of course, I just mentioned Derek Jones Jr., who has worked himself into the lineup. Another long body, a wing that is long and lanky, can get to the basket. He can hit a three. He can light you up from there. He's almost Jaden McDaniels' mirror image because he kind of brings the same kind of energy and thing to the team. He's a tough wing defender who can also hit a shot. He's a 3-and-D guy, but he's got that toughness to him. So Boston's going to have to really pay attention to that. He's going to be tough for them on the defensive side because he'll probably matched up some against Tatum, Brown, those guys. He's a tough. We may see him do what we thought, Jaden McDaniels could do to players. So I don't think in that sense, I don't think Boston has really played a team with a wing defender as good as he is. PJ Washington, not so much. And also, I don't think they played a team with the shot block. I mean, Miles Turner can block shots. They Evan Mobley, and of course Bam, but Bam is a little undersized for the 5 position, so I don't really count him as much. But they're gonna run into some bigs and some guys that can stifle them a little bit. So that's going to be an interesting thing. But let's move on to key factors, or excuse me, X factors. So my 2 X factors. Well, I have 3. I have 1 for the Boston Celtics, 2 for the Dallas Mavericks, and my my X factor for Boston I kind of alluded to earlier, and that is Drew Holiday. I think Drew Holiday is going to be a big X factor because if he can stifle or even give a maximum effort on Luka and to some degree Kyrie, kind of let the other 2, Jaylen Brown, Tatum, not have to play as hard on the defensive end. If he can kind of frazzle and rattle Luka to the point where he's just not as effective, even not just as a scorer, but as a facilitator, I think that's going to push Boston over the edge. Because if you can just take Luka out of the equation or just bring him down a little bit, if you can get him and Kyrie to score 50, if they match what Tatum and Brown bring, then the Dallas are doomed, because I just don't think they have enough players to give them the amount of points needed to offset what the others for the Boston Celtics can give you. Derek White can give you 20 on a given night. Drew can give you 20, 15. So Porzingis, if he comes back healthy, can give you a good 20. Al Horford can go off of 15, 20. You don't have that same, yes, you have PJ Washington that can give you some. Gafford and those guys can give you a few points, but a lot of that is dependent on how Luka's playing and how Kyrie is playing. If you can frazzle them and rattle them, then, because Boston has guys, I would say 1 through pretty much 4 that can create their own shot. They're good enough playmakers that they can get their own shot. They don't need any facilitating. That's why they don't really have a true point guard. Derek White and Drew Holiday are not your typical point guards. They're not a Chris Paul type or even a Halliburton type. They kind of, they're just to bring the ball up, to get the ball over half court. But with that said, they got guys that can score at will. Dallas doesn't have that same type of players, those type players. You need Luka and Kyrie to get Derek Jones Jr. going, to get PJ Washington going, to get Gafford and Lively and these guys, and even Tim Hardaway Jr. when he plays. They need him, Hardy, was it Jaden Hardy? Hope I got that right. Who comes off the bench for Kleber, all these guys need Luka and Kyrie or some semblance, some form of them on the court to get them going. Derek White doesn't need Tatum or Brown. Obviously, Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum doesn't need the others to be able to get going. Drew Holiday is tough enough where he can bully himself to the basket if need be. And he can hit a three. He can hit a mid-range. He's not, he's not going to shoot a whole bunch of them. And matter of fact, I have it written down. He's 40% from three. So he's shooting well. He's giving you 12.7 points per game. He was kind of the X factor and the catalyst to them getting by the Pacers in 4 because his play down the stretch was always big for them. And he was able to get timely baskets, make great plays towards the end. And that's that veteran IQ. That's that basketball IQ that is just invaluable. So, of course, Drew's my X factor for the Boston Celtics. As far as the Dallas Mavericks, I think those two big men, Derek Lively II and Daniel Gafford, have to perform well for Dallas to win. Like I said, I think Luka and Kyrie, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum will negate each other. They'll take each other out. So it's what the others can do. Like I've said a lot here. So those guys have to be aggressive. They have to make smart plays. They can't get in foul trouble. And that's what, Boston's probably going to try to do. They got a big in Porzingis that's a huge body. They're going to have a tough time guarding him. And then they have another smart guy in Al Horford. Of course, you got Tatum. If they switch everything and they get matchups with Tatum on either one of those guys or even Jaylen Brown, they're gonna eat them alive. It's barbecue chicken. So, those guys have got to step up and they've got to, they got to not let the bright lights get too bright for them, and they've got to play within the scheme of what they're trying to do. If they can do that and give them 10, 12 points, because both can easily do that. That's just 6 baskets. They'll both be on the court enough to where they can get that. Putbacks, lobs to them. If Luka, like I said, if Luka can get off and get comfortable and be able to facilitate and get other guys going, 12 points for both of them is nothing. So if those guys can average somewhere around that, you'll probably get something from PJ Washington, Derrick Jones Jr. You might get, a couple double digits. But I think if you get enough from those, you can bring in Kleber, Tim Hardaway Jr. if he's not injured or whatever's going on with him. You can get some of those guys to knock down shots. You don't need a ton from them, but you just need for all your main key players, the guys in the rotation, to give you at least double digits, maximum effort. And I think that can be what beats Boston. So with that said, why is this matchup so intriguing to me, per se? And I think that it comes down to, we didn't think these two teams were going to get here. Well, we thought Boston would. We didn't think Dallas would be here. It's going to be a chess match. This is the perfect matchup of offense versus defense. You have the just the huge mega offense of the Dallas Mavericks against the top 3 defense of the Boston Celtics. And that's going to be very interesting to see and you have 2 head coaches that are possibly night and day. You have Joe Mazzulla, who's a young guy. He got there due to, if you want to call it a technicality, Ime Udoka had him on his staff. Udoka got, we know what happened with him. Mazzulla stepped up. We weren't sure that he was going to get that head coaching job. The guys probably liked him because he's younger. He can kind of relate to most of them because he's around their age. So he got that job. He inherited a great team. So we're going to have to see if those X's and O's are something that he can drum up in sticky situations. But then you have a veteran Hall of Famer, All Star. Believe he was one of the top 75 players of all time, Jason Kidd, who's been there. He's been to the finals as a player, of course. He's won a championship. He knows what's needed to be done to get the job done. He can kind of show Kyrie, excuse me, Luka, these guys, what to do in every type of situation. So it is going to be a chess match, but he doesn't have the defense that Boston has. And that's going to be key. They say defense wins championships. I'm sure he knows that. So he's probably going to have something prepared for them to have them ready to at least attack their defense from first quarter to last second of the fourth. So it's going to be a true chess match. And can Mazzulla get the most out of those guys? You know, like I said, when when the going gets tough, when Luka and Kyrie go on those runs, can he get the troops together and can he be that voice that kind of calms them down, gets them back prepared, and helps them to get focus in those last few minutes? It's different going against the Pacers because they're very inexperienced. They had no right to even be there. I'm gonna say it. So it's easier to get those moments against that team, against a team like Dallas, who Kyrie's been there. Kyrie's won one. Kyrie's been in couple of NBA finals, so he knows the pressure. He knows when to back down a little bit and get your composure. I'm sure he's going to try to pump that life into Luka. Once the big lights start, blinding him, to kind of cool him off, get him focused and all of that. So I think that's one of the most intriguing parts of this will be that chess match. I also think that it's going to come down to it's going to be experience versus hunger. Basically, you have the experience of the Boston Celtics. They are just 2 years removed, I guess you could say, from being in the NBA Finals. Their roster isn't the exact same, but you had a guy that was there 2021, the year before, who won it. So it's not that there's this big divide and these guys are just getting there. They've been on the cusp for the last 3-4 years. So they're hungry. They're ready to get this. They're ready to go in there, get it done. They didn't have to, exert a ton of effort to get to that finals. So they're poised and ready. The inexperience. Luka, he's been to a conference final, but he's never been to the finals. None of those other guys have, other than Kyrie. Jason Kidd has experience as a player, but not as a coach. So he's inexperienced in that area. Mazzulla has coached in the finals, so he knows the pressures and all of that. He knows that he's going to have to come correct with the X's and O's, and there's going to be challenges here and there. He's going to have to make it happen to make sure those guys are prepared. And of course, the biggest intrigue of all of this is we did not expect this as the finals. We expected Boston, Denver, Boston, Minnesota. I mean, probably more people expected Boston and Lakers than Boston and Mavericks. And if it wasn't Boston, we expected Milwaukee or Philadelphia or even the Knicks. So this just seems out of left field that we have the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics. I said to my co-host Big Nige on the GOATcast podcast, I talked to other people, Adam Silver would have pulled out the hair he doesn't have if it had ended up being, excuse me, the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Indiana Pacers, excuse me, in the NBA Finals, because that just wasn't it. you know, at least they have a big market in Boston there. Luka is a known name. He was in the MVP race, in the MVP hunt this season. He's done some spectacular things. Kyrie is a name we all know and love. We have been kind of trouncing his name for the last couple of years due to just some of his mental, some of those things that he got going on, personal life stuff, and just his own personal convictions that he let slip into the sport. We kind of got on him about that, but this is his redemption story. He's coming back. He's showing you, I'm here to play basketball. I'm not here to, peddle this or that, or to be this social justice warrior. I'm here for basketball, and once you do that, you kind of win the people back, and this is his chance to win everybody back. One key thing that a lot of people are forgetting that I failed to bring up when I did this prediction on my other channel: Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown know Kyrie. They played together. So they're going to know some of his tendencies. They're going to know some of his, some of the things he likes to do, some of the things he doesn't like to do. So they got a little intel on him. They have some their own scouting report from playing on the same court and on the same team as him. I'm sure in some of those practices, those guys went at it. So that should be noteworthy to think that they have they know some stuff about Kyrie. So can they kind of stifle and figure out ways to kind of push Kyrie to places that he's not comfortable? Is that possible? We want to see. So with all this said, I have to keep this short because I got places and things to do. My prediction, and if you got this far, thank you. I'm going Boston Celtics in 6. I just think this is their year. The basketball gods said, we want Boston in the finals. They did everything to get them there. I don't think they did everything to get them there for them to go in there and lose. Now, I like the Dallas Mavericks. I like Luka. My son is a huge fan. And that house will be dreadful if Luka and them lose. But I just have to be honest, and I just have to be truthful. In my gut, my heart might not say it, because I think Dallas has looked so good against better teams. They played better teams than Boston did to get to the finals. But I think this is where experience will show. They played a very inexperienced OKC Thunder. Minnesota, for as good as they are, a lot of their key pieces are not very experienced in that kind of playoff atmosphere. Anthony Edwards, he'll get there, but he wasn't there. And if he's your number one, then you're in some trouble. The Clippers, they just have so many different issues. They just couldn't get it together. So I just think this is Boston's year, because they could have, after each of those losses against Miami and Cleveland, they could have folded. They could have scrambled and got frazzled and been like, oh, no, we lost that game. But no, they came back, pretty much dominated after that. And they've been the most dominant team. And that's what we've overlooked. And maybe we will look at this when all is said and done. If they win, this has been a very dominant run. Say all you want, excuse me, about how they, the teams they've been going against, but they've only lost twice. With each round, Dallas has lost, sometimes multiple games, but Boston's lost twice, and it took Herculean efforts from both Miami and then Donovan Mitchell to get those wins. Those weren't easy wins. So I just think Boston, this is their year, and that's just my gut telling me that I don't. Even though I feel like Dallas has played the better teams and have looked better all around, I just think there's that next gear Boston can turn on, even with even if Porzingis is 100%, there's something they can turn on that I think Dallas just isn't ready for. And I think with that many wings that can score on their own, they don't need any corner three passes. They don't need, to do all the different things just to set up that one shot. They can make plays to get to the basket and score. We have that many playmakers, and Dallas doesn't have that many defenders. Who are you going to put Luka on? Who are you going to put Kyrie on? That's going to be super effective. That's the questions I have, and I've got to see game one to really see how they're going to match up with Boston when it comes to their defensive side. So that said, I'm going Boston in 6. So hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you guys took the time to watch. I know I'm usually more of a video person. I do live streams every now and then, but right now the algorithm is just not on our side. So that's why I came here. Hopefully you guys check this out. If you do, please check out the other videos on the channel. It's not my mug on there, so you don't have to worry about seeing this. It's more just breakdowns and analysis. So please, if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel. We're trying to get to that 2,000 goal. It's going to be a slow process right now if things don't stay the way they are, but anything helps. A like here, a like there, comment here, comment there. I really do appreciate it. So yeah, so just let me know in the comment section who you guys got. Do you have Boston? Do you have Dallas? Let me know the amount of games you think it's going to. Maybe I'll have Dallas sweep it. Maybe have Boston sweep it. Maybe you have Dallas in a classic 7-game series. This has potential to be that. That's why I have 6, but it could definitely go 7. So yeah, let me know, and yeah, let's get ready for these NBA finals coming tomorrow. So hopefully you guys check back to the channel. We'll have some more content coming soon. And yeah, so GoCast Hoops. We'll be back very soon. Thank you guys.